Hi class, I wanted to make this video because while there are a lot of videos about pulleys out there, I found that most of them are either way too complex, they're difficult to understand, or they're very simple, but they actually have some wrong information in them. They've simplified so much that they've created misconceptions which just are not true. So I've called this video The Truth About Pulleys. Hopefully it's simple to understand, but actually still remains true, and there's no fallacies in the video at all. So let's, without further ado, look at some of the misconceptions about pulleys that are in some of the simple videos. So I saw this a lot. People would be pulling up on a rope over a pulley system, just like this one here, as this person is doing, and saying, oh, this is making it so much easier to lift this weight. It's not actually true. This person here with this pulley system that he's using is lifting the full weight of the barrel. It is not making it any easier for him to lift up that weight. However, in this picture, this person is only having to lift half of the weight of the barrel, and his pulley system is making it easier to lift up the weight. So what's the difference between those two? We're going to take a look at that in a second, but first let's look at the parts of a pulley. So a pulley is made up of 4 parts. The wheel and axle, similar to another simple machine, the wheel and axle, allows for that part of the pulley to rotate freely, and that's going to come into play. There's also a rope that moves through the groove on the wheel. So rather than having a tire on the wheel, it just has a section, a groove that allows the rope to move through it. And this means that if you pull down on one side of the rope, the other side of the rope goes up and vice versa, easily changing the direction that you can pull, meaning that you can change the direction of a force, and that's going to be very crucial. We're going to see that. But for this video, rather than using this pulley, and we're just going to simplify, and this is going to be our pulley. So whenever you see that, I want you to think this. So let's take a look at 3 types of pulleys. So there are 3 types of pulleys. They're pictured right here. But there's only 2 pictures, and they're identical. Yes, and we'll get to that as well. But for now, you need to know that there are 3 types of pulleys. So this is a fixed pulley. It is fixed to the roof, as in it's attached to the roof or the ceiling, and it's going to change the direction of a force. So as I pull down on this rope, this object is going to rise up the exact same amount. So if I pull down 1 full meter, that object is going to move up 1 meter. So all this fixed pulley is doing is changing the direction that I can pull. Otherwise, I would have to push up on the object to lift it up, right? Pulleys allow me to pull down to move something up. That's what a fixed pulley does. The second type of pulley is a movable pulley. Notice that this pulley is not attached to the ceiling anymore. In fact, it's attached to the object. Instead, the rope is attached to the ceiling. So now when I pull up on this rope, this object will raise up. However, it's only going to raise up half the amount that I pull on the rope. So if I pull up 1 meter on the rope, it's only going to move up 50 centimeters in height. Well, why would I want a pulley that actually makes the object move less far? Why is that useful? Well, the reason for that is that even though it's only going to move half as far, it's also going to feel only half as heavy, because half of the weight is being supported by the rope on the other side that's attached to the ceiling. So yes, you have to pull twice as far, but it lightens the load. It reduces the amount of force that you need to move the object. So it would be similar to if you were lifting a bag of groceries. Now, if you're holding a bag of groceries with 2 handles, you have to lift up on both handles. However, if you were to attach one of the handles to the wall on a hook, all you would have to do is lift up on the other handle to hold the bag, right? And so in theory, not in theory, apology, in actuality, by attaching it to a hook, you only have to hold half the weight of the bag. The same way that if you and your friends were holding the same bag, if you were each holding 1 handle, it would be lighter than if you have to hold the whole thing. That's still true. When we put 1 half on the hook, you hold the other half, it feels lighter because it is. However, if I were to pull up on that handle, the bag, the groceries in the bag would only move half as far as the handle that I moved up, because 1 handle is still attached to the hook, if that makes sense. So the same way in a movable pulley, when you pull on the rope, you have to pull twice as far, but the object feels twice as light. Therefore, you're still doing the same amount of work. The third type of pulley is a combined pulley. So a combined pulley is really just one of each. We have a fixed pulley here. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not. We have a fixed pulley that's attached to the ceiling, and we have a movable pulley that's attached to the object. So this thing accomplishes what a fixed pulley does and what a movable pulley does. So when I pull down on this rope, the fixed pulley is going to change the direction, and the movable pulley is going to reduce the amount of force needed, and this object's going to go up half as much as I pull down on that rope. So notice the directions are opposite, and the amount of force needed is halved, but the distance that I have to pull is doubled. So it does everything that both of those do combined. So it changes the direction, and it reduces the amount of force that you need. That's a combined pulley. And this is a rather simple combined pulley because it only has 2 pulleys. There's actually, the more pulleys you add, you can create a compound effect. So this is a more complicated combined pulley. It has 8 pulleys in it, but let's dissect this for a second. All 4 of those pulleys on the top row are fixed pulleys. You can see that they're fixed to the ceiling, right? All 4 of those pulleys on the bottom are fixed to the object that we're trying to lift, so those are movable pulleys. And every movable pulley that you add to an object is going to increase the mechanical advantage, meaning how much advantage you have when you're pulling. So because we have 4 movable pulleys, because we have 4 movable pulleys in this system, we actually have a mechanical advantage of 8, meaning that if I pull down on this rope, if I were to pull it down 8 meters, this object would only move up 1 meter. However, it would also feel 8 times lighter. So obviously this would be very helpful for a really massive heavy object. You could lift it with a lot less force needed. The reason why we have 4 fixed pulleys on the top is because after every time we have a movable pulley, we need to change the direction so we can connect to our next movable pulley. And so we're constantly changing the direction. The last one is so that we can pull down rather than having to be on the roof pulling up towards us, which would be more difficult, not necessarily more force, it would just be an awkward angle. So in this case, we've got our 8 pulleys. The fixed ones are changing the direction, and the movable ones are reducing the force. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8 times lighter in feeling when you're pulling down on that rope on the end there. So hopefully you've learned a couple things. So you can see that this man here, when he's pulling down on his rope, is still lifting the full weight of the barrel. He just gets to pull down instead of lift up from underneath. And this man here, because he's using a combined pulley system, you can see the movable pulley down here now and the fixed pulley up here, he only has to lift half the weight of the barrel. And that is the truth about pulleys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and then maybe you learned something as well.